numbers and creating errors around themselves. We also noticed an anomaly where they reported for the first time in 2017 some sort of income or revenue from Russell Township. Now, as fate would have it, I was the fiscal officer for Russell Township in 2017, and we did not give them any money outside of their normal revenue in the form of tax. So we suspect, as a budget commission, that this error really was a falsely reported set of revenue. It should have been included under tax. And you would see that the rollback and homestead exemption tax was eliminated from 2017, and I think that's where their error occurred. Then if you overlay the step down of inside millage on top of the model that they provided us with budgets, you will see that from 2014 and prior, they would have gotten 0.15 mils of inside millage. In 2015, 0.1 mils. In 2016, 0.05, and then 0 in 2017 and every year thereafter. And if you look at these numbers, that represents the tax they were claiming as revenue. And it became clear to us that since we know that inside millage is roughly $250,000 for every mill, a tenth of a mill would be about $25,000. So in 2015, with 0.1 mils being given to them in revenue, you would expect the numbers to the left of the circle to be approximately $25,000, and they are. But if you look at 2016 numbers, where it should have been half of that, or $12,500, they reported something in excess of $32,000. So there's a $20,000 discrepancy. And then if you go to the next year where it dropped to 0 mils of revenue, they should have had 0 in these two values, and in fact, their revenue was again about $31,000 or $32,000, again an error. So if you add up those two numbers, we roughly suspected a $52,000 misreporting of revenue. We also noticed that the Park District was reporting a drop-off of their interest. Now again, this interest comes from both their general fund money as well as their land acquisition money. And we suspected for some reason, perhaps they were pointing to they were going to buy additional property, or for some reason their balance was going to go to 0. So we just made note of that and suspected that in the land acquisition side, we should see some sort of a land purchase. Now if we look at their land acquisition budget for the same period, same years, quickly you see an anomaly where previously they had reported 2015 balance in their general fund. They reported no numbers for their land acquisition fund. I looked on their website, could not find any good financials. At this point, I called the state auditor who was doing their audit. I asked him for better numbers. He was unable to provide them. So I pulled the previous year's budget submitted to the county auditor, and I found on that document a 2015 set of numbers provided. So I took those numbers and I applied it to their budget. I then overlaid their millage that they should be receiving an outside millage through their levy in the corresponding years. I then looked at their revenue and determined whether or not they were actually receiving revenue in the form of their 1 mil of outside millage. And you can see these totals. For the total for 2015 was about $151,000. It's pretty close to what I estimated 1 mil was generating in 1992. However, in 2016, you can see that they dropped their revenue from what would be normally expected to be $150,000 to $133,000. And then in 2017, when they still had outside millage coming in, again, instead of $150,000 plus, they only accounted for $124,000. So it became obvious to us at this point that they appeared to be shifting a reduction in inside millage. Rather than having it in the general fund, they were shifting it into the land acquisition fund, which is a restricted fund. Because of this activity, we have to call in the suspect their ending balance in 2016, and therefore their beginning balance in 17, ending balance in 17, and it ripples through. So all of their balances moving forward were questioned. Lastly, you can observe that They showed their interest dropping off in 2017 to zero and reportedly estimated in 18, but they show no additional purchases after the $1,200,000 purchase in 2016. So there was no logic to explain why they were receiving no interest from money that they had in the bank. As a result of this action, the Budget Commission unanimously voted to table the budget. We gave them approximately 2 weeks to come back with new numbers or to explain why these numbers did not balance. I subsequently met with the chair of the Park District on August 17th. And in that meeting, I provided him a series of spreadsheets developed by my office and staff. We pointed out to them that these numbers were being derived from their reported figures being put into budgets, and the anomaly of the reduction of inside millage failed to account for a reduction of revenue in the general fund as it should, and instead accounted for a reduction in revenue in the land acquisition fund, which is improper. We also pointed out anywhere we saw beginning and ending balances to be error. We gave them the reasons we suspected them. We further gave them the backup sheets and how we defined and we calculated these numbers. So we prepared for them a total collection based on our figures that we had in the auditor's office. We calculated their inside millage determination, and then we calculated their outside millage determination. We then rolled those numbers into that first spreadsheet that we provided them, and we pointed out to them where we saw their numbers went astray. So the total revenue that they were reporting in the general fund was errored because of this reduction not being taken into account. And the reported revenue going into the land acquisition fund was in error because they took the reduction in this particular fund. And then we tested their total revenue that they were reporting against what we apportioned them. So the county auditor controls the apportionment of the money, and it should match whatever their revenue is that they say they received. And in fact, in doing that apportionment test, we determined that about $4,000 was astray. And it varied in which year it occurred. Primarily, the errors occurred in 2016 and 2017. So the last column, you'll see those numbers. There should be zeros in the whole last set of columns. We also reported that in determining that calculation, again, this proved that approximately $52,000 had been misappropriated or misplaced from the land acquisition fund into the general fund. And then lastly, we showed where we made assumptions. And that one assumption we're pointing out is that $4,000 from Russell that we believe was actually taxed. We then had a second hearing on August 28th with the Budget Commission, with the Russell Park District, allowing them to come in with refreshed numbers. They were unable to provide any refreshed numbers. We did provide them with this summary of our discovery. There are a number of items you can see in the middle of that page, but the most significant one that we pointed out was the item number 6, was the unexplained variance of about $52,000 that we believe should have been put into the land acquisition fund that was incorrectly placed into the general fund. We gave them a set of recommended forward steps, not the least of which included hiring an outside accounting firm to clean up their books. Because of the events and because we were not provided with any new refreshed data that added up, the advice was that the Budget Commission made that they were going to hire Alger and Associates, which was what we recommended they do, to correct their financial issues. And they indicated that this would take approximately 2 weeks. And unfortunately, we had a hard stop date of September 1st in order for us to report the budgets to the state. We also made note to them that the state auditor had in their last audit told them that they were unable to do a performance audit on them, and they did a basic audit instead. But the data they were providing to them was inconclusive. They were not giving them fund balance data. So even 2 years prior, the auditor was giving them a wake-up call. This is the auditor state. At this meeting, the Budget Commission concluded by unanimously voting to not approve the 1545's budget. I then subsequently met with Scott Wade, who was the chair of the Russell Park Board, on October 11th. I was provided a set of spreadsheets that were developed by their outside accounting firm. Upon seeing those, I recognized that their accounting firm was indicating a $150,000 transfer from the general fund into the land acquisition fund, roughly 3 times what I had recommended that they had to do. That left them with $30,000 of balance in the general fund. Based on what I was seeing from